Government shutdown live updates as Senate plans 8th vote to reopen government. Live updated 25 minutes ago by Caitlin Yilick, politics reporter. https://Caitlin Yilick is a politics reporter at cbsnews.com based in Washington, D.C. She previously worked for the Washington Examiner and The Hill and was a member of the 2022 Paul Miller Washington Reporting Fellowship with the National Press Foundation. Read full bio. Flash www.cbsnews.com/Caitlin Yilick. Updated on October 14, 2025 EDT. What to know on day 14 of the government shutdown. Democrats and Republicans remain locked in a stalemate over how to reopen the government on day 14 of the shutdown, with another vote expected Tuesday evening. The Senate returns to Washington today and plans to vote for an 8th time on a House-passed measure to fund the government at 5:30 p.m. Because they have to reach a 60-vote threshold, Senate Republicans must win more support from Democrats to pass the measure. Democrats are demanding the extension of health insurance tax credits as a condition for their support. President Trump said over the weekend that he was directing the Pentagon to use all available funds to get our troops paid. Members of the military are due to be paid on Wednesday. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said Coast Guard personnel will also receive paychecks this week. Other federal workers won't receive paychecks until the shutdown ends. 25 minutes ago, military families worry about missed paychecks amid government shutdown. Naomi Pyle isn't sure if her husband's next paycheck from the U.S. Navy will arrive on Wednesday. The couple, who are raising 2 children in San Diego, California, were already struggling to make ends meet before the government shut down on October 1st. Pyle, 30, told CBS News, adding that the family won't be able to cover all of their expenses if he doesn't get paid on time. President Trump last week sought to allay such concerns, writing on social media that his administration had identified funds to pay military service members and directing Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to ensure paychecks go out on October 15th as scheduled. While the president did not offer additional details, the White House Office of Management and Budget told the Associated Press it would use Pentagon research and development funds to pay troops in the event the funding lapse continues past October 15th. Still, for some service member families, even the possibility of missing a single paycheck is fueling concerns about money. We were already living paycheck to paycheck, so this doesn't help at all, Pyle told CBS News. We have to pick and choose which bills to pay now. Read more here. https://www.cbsnews.com/news-government shutdown-military missed paycheck. 10:56 a.m. Johnson says, I don't have anything to negotiate, as he refuses to bring House back. House Speaker Mike Johnson, a Louisiana Republican, said he does not plan to change his shutdown strategy, saying at his daily news conference that, I don't have anything to negotiate. We're not playing games. They're playing a game, he said. The House has been out of session since September 19th, when it passed the GOP measure to fund the government until November 21st. Johnson has repeatedly extended the break, arguing that the House has done its job and it's up to Senate Democrats to provide the handful of votes needed to end the shutdown. But Senate Democrats remain dug in on their demand for Republicans to negotiate on the expiring Affordable Care Act enhanced subsidies. House GOP leadership continued to hammer Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, a New York Democrat, ahead of the upper chamber's 8th vote on the House-passed measure. Johnson said Schumer's refusal to support the continuing resolution is plainly and simply an exercise in image rehabilitation with the left-wing base, arguing Schumer is trying to fend off a primary challenge from the left. He is the broken status quo, Johnson said. House Majority Leader Steve Scalise, a Louisiana Republican, added, Our country deserves a whole lot better than what we're getting from the failed leadership. And Speaker Johnson said, maybe it's because Chuck Schumer has been around too long and wants to hold on to the old way of doing things. 9:20 a.m. Senate set to vote on advancing GOP funding bill at 5:30 p.m. The Senate is reconvening at 3 p.m. and will take a procedural vote on the House-passed GOP funding bill at 5:30 p.m., according to a notice from Majority Whip John Barrasso's office. In previous rounds of voting, the chamber has also taken votes on whether to advance the Democrats' version of a funding bill. But Barrasso's notice made no mention of considering the Democratic bill this time around. Updated 8:48 a.m. House Democrats to meet today while House remains out of session this week. The House hasn't been in session since September 19th, after passing a measure to fund the government until November 21st. And the House is still on recess this week, after GOP leadership canceled votes. Republicans say the lower chamber has already done its job and is continuing to pressure the Senate to pass the bill. Meanwhile, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries called House Democrats back to Washington this week, writing in a letter to colleagues Saturday that they would return to Washington and meet Tuesday evening to discuss the path forward. Jeffries and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, both New York Democrats, say the way to resolve the shutdown is through negotiations between congressional leaders and the White House. Republicans contend there's nothing to negotiate, since the House has already passed a measure to keep the government funded. Jeffries reiterated his position on MSNBC Monday, saying https://ypw.com/@NBC. Republican leaders need to sit down and negotiate to reopen the government, saying they have basically gone radio silent since the White House meeting ahead of a shutdown. Republicans are nowhere to be found, Jeffrey said. They literally are not in Washington and have not been in Washington for the last several weeks and have no intention of being there this week. Updated 8:48 a.m. Senate set to vote for 8th time on House-passed measure to fund the government. The Senate is returning to Washington Tuesday afternoon and is expected to hold a procedural vote in the evening on a House-passed measure to fund the government, trying again to end the impasse after the bill repeatedly fell short of the 60 votes needed last week. Republicans have attempted to peel off enough Democrats to push through a House-passed measure to keep the government funded until November 21st. But they've been unable to pick up any new support from Democrats since just before the shutdown began. In the Senate, 60 votes are needed to advance most measures, and with only 53 Republicans in the Senate, support from Democrats is essential. Just one Democrat initially crossed the aisle to support the bill in a vote last month. But on the next vote, on September 30th, 2 more joined Republicans. One Republican, Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, has consistently voted against the measure to fund the government. 5 more Democrats are needed to advance the measure. But Tuesday's vote marks a change in approach. It's the first time the chamber will take a vote on the legislation that passed the House without also voting on a competing measure from Democrats. The Democrats' bill would fund the government until October 31st and includes an extension of the expiring health insurance tax credits. Updated 8:48 a.m. Noem says Coast Guard will be paid this week. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said Coast Guard personnel will receive paychecks this week from funds in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act that passed earlier this year. Over the weekend, President Trump directed the Pentagon to pay military personnel despite the government shutdown, but the Coast Guard falls under the purview of the Department of Homeland Security. President Trump did not want any of our military to go without pay as a result of Democrats' political theater, and we at DHS worked out an innovative solution to make sure that didn't happen, Noem wrote Monday on X. Thanks to President Trump's leadership and the One Big Beautiful Bill, the brave men and women of the U.S. Coast Guard will not miss a paycheck this week as they continue to carry out their critical homeland security and military missions. Noem did not disclose the source of the funding for the paychecks. Government shutdown, https://www.cbsnews.com/feature/government shutdown.